want to start off with our flour. Now, always using a high protein flour like a bread flour, also known as strong flour. So we're going to pop that straight into our mixer. Of course, you can do all of this by hand, just with a bit of elbow grease. And then we have our fermented dough, which we prepared yesterday, or you can do this up to 3 days in advance. I'm going to pop that straight in as well. Adding our moisture component, our hydration, which is a combination of water and plant milk. So the plant milk is going to make our sandwich bread softer. So relative to our flour weight, we're using a 60% hydration, which puts us in that category of a standard dough. I'm gonna get this on our mixer and mix everything up. Once everything has come together, we can get this off our mixer. Now at this stage, there's no salt in here, there's no yeast in here. We're doing what's called an auto-lease. So what this is doing is allowing time for the flour to absorb all of that moisture. So it's going to help with the overall texture, and it will also make it so we don't need to knead it as much later. Just pop a lid on top, or you can get yourself a tea towel and just cover it. And we're going to set this aside for 30 minutes. Your auto-lease 30 minutes is up. We can start adding all the remaining ingredients. So of course we have our yeast. I'm using some dry yeast, but you could use fresh if you would like. I'm also using some glucose syrup, which is optional. It will just make it even softer bread and again extend the life so it doesn't get stale as quickly. Then we have our salt, always using sea salt. Some sugar. I like to use the white sugar because I am doing a classic white sandwich bread. And some vegan butter, which is softened. So we want to get this back on our mixer. Mix it on low speed until everything comes together. Then increase that speed to number 2 and knead it for about 6 minutes or until we get a nice gluten structure. Okay, so our dough has been mixing and kneading for about 6 to 8 minutes or so. It's nice and smooth. Now we want to check it for its gluten structure, and how we do that is you want to wet your hands. I've just got some water here. Just grab some of that dough, and we want to see whether we can do a window test, okay? So if you can create a window without it breaking, we want to kind of get it just to that stage. And then we can pop it into either a bowl, or I really like to use a clear container. And I like to just wet my hands again. Now I'm going to create this into a ball, so I'm just tucking the dough under itself so it's nice and smooth on the top, as you can see. And we're just going to put it into our container here. Make sure my hands are wet, so the wet hand stops the dough from sticking. Now I'm just going to press this into the corners. I want to create a nice even level so we can actually see at what level this is proofing. Or you could use an elastic band. And I'm just going to mark where my dough currently is. So once our dough doubles our line, we know that it is ready. I'll bench proof it ideally between 21 and 29 degrees Celsius. Remember, we put a mark on our container so we know when it doubled. Now, so I need to scale my bread loaves. So what we want to do is just get some flour down onto your bench. I want to get our dough out. Let's get a little bit more flour down onto our bench. We can take our piece of dough. Now we want it in sort of a rectangular shape, which is nice if you're using a rectangular container. Now we want to deflate this and until it's about a centimetre sort of thick. So we're going to start rolling this towards us in a nice tight sausage, and then we get this nice loaf. We can tighten that up a little bit. Now the seam, I'm just going to close that seam up, and that seam is going to go on the bottom of our very well greased loaf pan. So we want to have that down the bottom, like so. So our bread has now proofed, it's doubled in size. I'm just going to take it out of my proofer now. I have preheated my oven to 200 degrees Celsius. So we're going to load it. I'm going to put a little bit of boiling water in a tray that I've put in my oven. Now I have my loaves here, as you can see, they've proofed nicely. In we go. Shut the door. Now we're going to reduce the temperature down to 180 degrees Celsius. As soon as they come out, you don't want to leave them in the tin for longer than 5-10 minutes, otherwise they start steaming in the tin and they may stick. So as soon as they come out, you can just grab them, just give it a bit of a knock, help loosen them up, and they should come straight out. Look at that, we've got some beautiful, nice coloration all the way through. Loaves. Now, don't be tempted to cut into these right now. It's very important that we allow our loaves to completely cool because the cooking process is still going on as they cool.